Okay, I think we are recording. Namaskar, everybody. I'm Neil. I'm one of the KOA youth representatives, one of the two state representatives here in Texas. And today we're doing a Kath-e-baath with Rakesh Kolji, who, as many of us know, one of our very respected and well-known community members, and an author who's written books on who's written many pieces of literature, but especially books on Kashmir that I think we should all pay attention to. He's the author of the best-selling novel, The Last Queen of Kashmir, which I'm sure a lot of us have heard of previously. And now he has a new book out called Dawn, the Warrior Princess of Kashmir, a book that was recently selected for the Jaipur Literature Festival, a very prestigious festival in India, which Rakesh ji is just coming back from. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the book and inspirations and more. And before we get in, I think I can let Rakesh ji just give us a little context about his inspirations, the book, etc. If you want to go ahead.
So, Neil, namaskar to you and to our most precious resource, our pride and joy, our youth. It's a privilege to be here with you. Let me dive right away into the story. The story begins with Dawn celebrating her 16-year birthday. And she has a single parent in her mother who has planned out a wonderful day of activities inside the home that they live in. So Dawn has a wonderful time, and when she falls asleep, very tired, she just literally passes out. At midnight, she wakes up to find two dream weavers in her room. They are most astonishing in their appearance, and they tell her that she is in grave peril, that the home that she is in and has lived an orderly life is actually a space pod, a cave inside Mount Kailash. That was a place where her mother had fled for sanctuary when she was born. That it is the year 3000 AD. That outside is a most evil tyrant armed with lethal technologies, ruling over 5 billion men that he controls through artificial intelligence machines. All the women have been killed on the planet. The men are paired with robot women, and they have been tasked to hunt down Dawn, who is the last surviving girl on Earth. And once they hunt her down, capture her, they'll sacrifice her. And with that will come the end of life on the planet.
Wow.
So, what I have done is I have created what in literary terms would be called the Sarvanash scenario. Sarv means everything, Nash means destruction. It's going to be the end of life. And I have arrayed one single light of life in the 16-year-old girl Dawn against the mightiest force that one can conceive. Nobody ever in their life, Neil, I'm sure you will agree, will ever face a challenge in their life of this magnitude. Do you agree? Yes? No?
Yeah. It's pretty fantastic challenge.
So, the reason that the story starts that way is because it is a Niti story.
Hmm.
Niti literary genre was pioneered in Kashmir. It was a unique genre, and it had a very fundamental premise. The fundamental premise of Niti was that when you're born with only one birthright.
Mm.
And that birthright is the freedom to pursue and reach your quest.
Okay.
And Niti said that as you engage in the quest of your life, you're going to encounter challenges. And these
Hmm.
challenges will be of all shapes, stripes, traits, people, other constraints. But Niti also said that there's a Niti solution to every challenge. So that
Hmm.
was the remarkable premise of the Niti literary genre. We can get more into what this Niti literary genre was.
Hmm. So yeah, I actually Niti literary genre. It is from because I'm pretty unfamiliar. I saw a lot about it in your book, but it's from where in India, from which time, or from.
Very good questions. Because Dawn is the first novel after 500 years that revives the grand Niti cultural heritage of Kashmir, where Niti literary genre was born,
Hmm.
and certainly the first novel to come out of India in English in
Okay.
Niti genre. So it is completely understandable that you would not have heard of it. But the very first Niti novel that came out, which was written sometime between 200 and 500 BC,
Hmm.
certainly more than
Wow.
2,200 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a collection of stories called the Panchtantra.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that I've heard of for sure. That.
That sort of, yes. And Panchtantra became the most translated book of India even to this day.
Hmm.
It traveled through Iran, Europe, Arabia to
Hmm.
Europe. Lots of Niti stories followed. There was a magnum opus, Katha Saga, the ocean of stories.
Mm.
The last bona fide Niti novel that was written was The Story of Wonder by Srivara of Kashmir in the year 1500. And we could talk more about that particular story.
Okay.
And then it just died because of Neil, you know what happened in Kashmir. There was a
Exactly.
absolute destruction of our ancient wisdom, and these were treasures for
Mhm.
humanity.
Yeah,
But
it's amazing to hear about, this is something we've lost that, like, look at me, I haven't even heard of it. There, and it's such a relevant subject. The Panch Tantra that, like you said, was one of ancient India's most famous exports, came from a Niti culture that was part of, our KP culture in Kashmir, that because of this destruction over the past so many centuries, now it's to the point that we don't even know about our own aspects of our own heritage.
now here is the uh, aspect of Niti that would interest the youth.
Hmm.
Uh, Even though it's very much an integral part of our culture, at the end of the day, it was a technology. It was a
Oh,
technology that was buried inside this literary genre. And I'm going to make a claim that
hmm.
we'll get into later. And I hope
Yeah.
one. give a TED talk on it. So I preview this claim with you and the other youth because you guys are
Uh-huh.
technology adept. That Niti literature is the greatest technology ever discovered, or you can call it invented
Mhm.
by humanity. That's a very bold claim to
Okay,
make.
that's a bold claim. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think it'll still take some convincing, but I'm
all right. We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
okay, good. So other than the Niti literature genre, that seems to be the inspiration or the kind of I mean it's both you both use it within the book. So the protagonist in the book is Dawn,
Yes,
correct? And she uses as far as it's an essential part of the story as well, right? That she draws from the Niti literature. And then
yes,
the book itself is also drawing from Niti literature. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes.
Okay, good.
So maybe I should touch on why I wrote this book.
Yeah, yeah, please.
My last book, in some ways, was revolutionary. Uh, it was a book of history. It took me 12 years. This queen was completely buried by
Hmm.
the Muslim historians that followed, and
Exactly,
there were
exactly.
reasons why she was buried because it turns out she was probably the greatest queen that India has had.
Mm.
And the
And this is Queen Kota Rani,
that's right.
to be correct.
Now it's totally out of print. I mean, it came out at 300 rupees. Today it's a collectible item. You can't buy. I mean, you can go on Amazon and see for yourself. A
We
used
have we
copy,
have a copy at home. I know we have a copy at home
save
somewhere.
it. A used
Yeah.
copy today sells for 7,000 rupees.
Oh.
It's become first edition has become a collector's item, and it's not going to be reprinted with that cover. So just hold
Hmm.
to it. But there are a couple of proverbs because your uh, colleagues around the world need to know the wisdom that was in our proverbs. I mean, the first proverb is that there are many histories, but there is only one future.
Mm.
And as the youth, you're very concerned about your future.
Yep.
So that was the first reason I wanted to write this story. The second proverb, which is becoming increasingly relevant in today's day and age of technology, is there's a proverb in Kashmir that says, better that the mind be blind than that the way of life be blind. Now, this is a pretty extraordinary proverb because in today's day and age, we all think when we make decisions in our life that we apply our mind to it, we use the information we have, and we try to come up to the right decisions. But here is our culture telling us no, your mind is a frenemy. It can be your friend mostly, but it can also be your enemy.
Mhm.
And especially as we begin to navigate a world where there are lots of ways that your mind can be poisoned under the garb of things that tempt you, nationalism or religion or algorithms or
Yeah.
addictive algorithms, I should say. So, TV anchors who get your blood.
Social media in general. Yeah.
So, it's a very ancient proverb that was warning us. But the third proverb, which is even more interesting, is that your way of life is a lifeboat that you carry within you, even as it carries you within it.
Okay. It's a very
So
deep proverb.
these are all the distilled distill learnings of life that your culture gives you with only one goal. And that goal in Niti was that you should become successful in achieving your quest. So
Okay.
Niti existed at a time where there was no religion, there was no gurus,
Hmm.
there was nothing
Hmm.
out there,
Not
no morality, no good or bad. It
no
was
structure, kind of.
no structure. It was only designed to propel you to your quest. In fact, one of the great stories of Pantantra that I like to share is the story of the owls and the crows. And these owls, they are hunting down the crows with their very sharp minds and with their even sharper beaks. Whenever they spot a
Hmm.
crow, they just rip into it and tear them apart. And finally, the crows, in desperation, the king gathers his remaining flock and he tells his advisors, "What should I do?" And one advisor says, in the face of a enemy like this, run away. Another advisor says something else. Another advisor says something else. And I'll just go to the bottom line
Yeah.
that the winning strategy turns out to be the advisor who says and then practices. And that strategy is, in face of an implacable enemy, lie, 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 lie.
Lie.
So there's no morality to it. There's
Yeah.
no Satyamev Jayate to it. There's no dharma to it. It's all about the evolutionary force in you, which says you've got to get to your quest. You got to be the winner. And if it Niti says in that situation, if you have to lie, lie, lie,
Then
lie.
you have to
And what
lie.
happens is this particular advisor with his strategy, they completely destroy the owls.
Yeah.
Completely destroy them. So that's the kind of mind programming Niti releases you from. And Niti is only concerned about what the youth are concerned about, which is me. How do I get ahead in life? How do I
Mhm.
become a winner?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a aspect I guess I hadn't really thought about. I know a lot of this has a lot of connection to just our heritage and helps us at least reframe it in another way. So hearing stories and getting all the inspiration and hearing them in a different context, especially in a novel. But this is very interesting to talk about Niti and how it talks more about how our mind is programmed to work. I think it's a very enticing and interesting concept that I'm very interested in now, and I want to hear more. But before we hear more about that, I also want to step back, and I had this question earlier on too, and I should have asked it, but this is a simpler question. Why the name Dawn? What was the thinking? Because I saw it wasn't the last Queen of Kashmir, and we had Kota Rani, and it was all the Dawn name seemed arbitrary to me, but was there was there a reason?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that question, and they sort of, I'm sure, privately think, oh, this guy is living in America, and that's why he came up with the name Dawn. Uh, but Dawn is nothing but the name Usha in the English language.
Okay.
And this is another thing I reveal that will astonish the readers of this novel. Uh, in the Rig Veda,
Hmm.
Usha is the
Shiva's.
supreme feminine
Okay.
deity.
Hmm.
There was no Durga then, there was no Kali, there was no Saraswati, no Sharda.
Hmm.
Usha is, I think, mentioned over 200 times in Rig Veda. In
Hmm.
fact, the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhava Swa, with Savitur is Savita. Savita is the sister of Usha, also represents light. Same thing as
Okay.
Usha. But what is more fascinating, Neil? All of it is fascinating. Usha is not only the oldest feminine deity. In fact, when I gave a talk at Hagop Kevorkian NYU school, the lady there in charge of the center said she thinks the concept of Usha could go back 16,000 years. So, Usha is also the most widely accepted energy out of India. So, Usha traveled to Greece and became Eos. From Greece, it traveled to England, it became Eostre. And Eostre, had the same, there was a festival, they had the same meaning. Dawn every morning represents a rebirth, a new day, a new beginning. And the festival of Eostre was the same festival celebrating that. And when Christianity came along, they basically appropriated this festival, and it was called Easter.
Ah, okay. Oh, wow.
Easter is Usha. But it doesn't
Yeah.
stop there. What is interesting is when the Jews were persecuted and they fled, and the Sanhedrins, the religious leaders of the Jews, the upholder of their religious law, the first place that they settled for refuge, they called it Usha.
Really?
So,
I-
why was Usha given so much importance? And why do I feel such great joy in bringing this back and reviving this incredible energy? Is just think for a minute, Neil. What does Usha face since the dawn of the universe, beginning of the universe? What is Usha facing?
Yeah. What is she I mean, she's facing us,
Faces darkness, right?
darkness.
She is constantly facing darkness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
First ray of dawn, what do they face? What do they penetrate? They penetrate darkness.
The darkness.
So Usha is always facing darkness. Now imagine her, what her mission in life is to face darkness.
Yeah.
Does she stop? No.
Nope.
We know tomorrow the sun will rise, right? Dawn will
Mm-hmm.
rise. We know that.
Yeah.
So she doesn't stop. And in the mind of the poet, in the mind, your mother is a great poet, in the mind of the writer, what does Usha symbolize? Usha symbolizes that as long as you know you're the carrier of light,
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to fear from darkness.
Mm. It's like perseverance.
So, yeah, so I named this central character, the 16-year-old girl, as Dawn because she was facing the greatest darkness. We all face darkness in our life. But as long as we don't forget the light,
Yeah.
we'll
Wow.
prevail.
That's a very powerful message. I guess I didn't I didn't glean that from just the name. It was confusing me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a very powerful message. And I think things like these, like nuances like this, that we could read the book for the story
Yeah.
and the context, and our connection that it has some. But we can, I think, like even this something as simple as her name has a much deeper meaning, and if we delve into it, the whole book is like an opportunity to like delve into a lot of these deeper meanings and deeper connections we have.
Yeah, it's a story. It's a meta story with many smaller stories in it, but uh, and the story itself is very thrilling. But uh, coming back to the Niti literary genre
Hmm.
and coming back a little bit to the technology claim,
Hmm.
Niti literary stories, the starting point of a Niti literary story was that it had to be written in the Adbhut Rasa. Adbhut Rasa meaning the rasa of wonder.
Okay.
So my first novel was written in Shant Rasa, Shant meaning peaceful Rasa, uh, and
And can you explain for everyone just rasa, like what is that in a literary sense? What are we
yes,
implying by that?
yeah. So uh, to Kashmir goes the great credit of developing aesthetic
Hmm.
theory, which Professor Sidney Pollock of Columbia University, he's the guy that the Narayan Murthy's son gave 50 million to do the translation of Indian classics. He's leading that effort. He
Oh
calls
wow.
that India's greatest contribution to the world, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And this theory of aesthetics basically attempts to help you appreciate life's experiences at an aesthetic level.
Hmm.
And the theory said that there are basically nine stable emotions that can get triggered. The top two being Shringhara or love, or Vira or heroic. But then
Hmm.
there are other emotions. You can have sorrow, you can have disgust, you can have humor. But the highest one is the ninth one, which is Shantras, which is the state of peace or beatitude or bliss.
Hmm.
So these rasas, and let me backtrack a bit for a minute. For example, when a boy kisses a girl for the first time,
Hmm.
often he will say that the kiss had the taste of honey. He's not being metaphysical. Literally, he feels a sweetness.
Sweetness.
Or when somebody experiences great tragedy
Hmm.
and they cry and they experience a taste of salt.
Hmm.
They, so rasa is from the word ras or juice of life.
Juice. Yeah.
It's the juice of life that gets triggered by these emotions. And so the ancient people call these as rasas. There are nine different rasas. And Adbhut rasa or the state of wonder is
Mhm.
also a rasa. So Niti stories had to be written using the wonder rasa, and now we're beginning to get into the technology aspect.
Yeah.
So in Panchtantra, uh, the wonder was created through the use of apologue. It was the first literary creation where apologue was used. And apologue is a device where animals are the central characters, and animals act and talk like human beings. They show the nature of human beings, whether they are predatory or selfish or
Hmm.
kind or foolish. And so this was quite a wondrous thing for the world that had never experienced it. And the longevity and stability of that genre is that even to this day, Disney is now the inheritor of Apollo, which was pioneered
Yeah.
in Kashmir. And whether you're watching Lion King or seeing any other Disney production, they're using Adbhut Wonder Rasa, they're using Apollo, animals, Bugs Bunny, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Mickey Mouse, and we lost it. We lost a proven thing. But coming back to wonder, and so wonder was the rasa that could be written in. Now, there are 20 different types of wonders according
Hmm.
to our framework. You can, for example, go to the Alps or you can go to the ocean. And when you look at the ocean and when you look at the Alps, you can experience a state of expansion, oceanic state. and that state is valuable. But what that state does is it lulls you. It lulls you. A Niti literary genre, by contrast, is a genre where, as you're reading the novel, your mind is engaged.
Mhm.
So, unlike other states of wonder, which can be created, for example, in fantasy writing, you can
Mhm.
go into fantasy writing and escape. Niti is
Mhm.
not about escaping. That's the first step, expansion.
Mhm.
Niti is about facing. Niti is about engagement. So what happens is, Neil, when you are writing a story in the Wonder Rasa and you're reading
Mhm.
the story, your um, mind is freed of its constraints, and that is the point in time when the learning is the best.
Okay.
And when that learning is the best, you begin to now have a 360-degree view of reality. And
Mhm.
hopefully, in that expanded view of reality, you in that state can now find an answer to the problem that was blocking you. And so it
Mhm.
is in that state that you begin to now have the Archimedes Eureka movement. You begin to have
Mhm.
the aha movement. You begin to have the out of box movement
Yeah.
that we say is a prelude to creativity and imagination. And so I'll just segue and make one more point, then you can ask me the next question. So Niti maintained, and this is the sort of revelation about Goddess Saraswati.
Mhm.
We in Kashmir say we pass, we follow the pathway of knowledge.
Yeah.
Uh, but yes, the pathway of knowledge is necessary, but it is not sufficient.
Mhm.
Sufficient. And Niti would say, yes, you need small IQ, small IQ
Yeah.
being intelligence quotient, but you need big IQ, big IQ being imagination quotient.
Mhm.
Remember, like dawn, again bringing the dawn metaphor, you at any moment face the unknown. That's
Mhm.
darkness ahead. You are in that ship in the ocean of life. You're facing the unknown. Behind you is the known. So while it's
Yeah.
good to have the known, what you really have to face is the unknown.
Mhm.
And Niti says that if you have no imagination, then what will happen to you? The
Yeah.
whole unknown will become dark. You will stop right in your heels. Doesn't matter how much knowledge you have.
Mhm.
You have to have imagination to
Mhm.
visualize what's ahead, to actually take even the first step ahead, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, like the ancients, you will think you will sail to the edge and fall off the horizon,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's not surprising that when Albert Einstein gave a talk at Princeton, not too far away from where we live, and this woman came up to him and said, Mr. Einstein, I'd like my son to grow up to be like you. What should I do? And he replied, Madam, read him stories. Read him a lot of stories. Many, many, many stories.
Wow.
So why was he doing that? Why was the greatest scientist saying, go read stories? And if he had known about Niti stories, he would have said, go read stories. Because Niti stories are fundamentally about opening your imagination, opening your creativity while engaging with the reality.
Mhm.
Every Niti story solves a problem. It can be a basic story of a Brahmin leaving his village, traveling in the forest, finding a tiger that has escaped from the cage. And the tiger says, Brahman, I'm not a bad tiger, but I have to eat.
Yeah.
I have to eat you. And what does the poor Brahmin do? Remember, every Niti warrior is peaceful. Every Niti warrior only can use his mind and creativity, not his weapons, against
Mhm.
a far greater evil, much like Dawn against 5 billion men ruled by a terrible, lethal leader.
Mhm.
So the Brahmin says to the tiger, "O mighty tiger, somebody as magnificent as you. There is no
Uh,
way, I cannot even imagine how you could have been trapped in this tiny cage." The tiger roars, says, "You stupid fool. Let
yeah.
me show you the error of your thinking, and then I will eat you." And then the moment
Yeah.
he goes back into the cage, the Brahmin slams the bolt shut.
And walks away.
Niti was concerned about solving problems, and it did that through big IQ. Of course,
Mm.
small IQ was always there. And the reason I want people to read this novel is also because in your generation, a lot of the jobs and other such things that today are done by small IQ will be
Mhm.
automated. Algorithms, machines, IoT will
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
that over. But as Dawn demonstrates, big IQ is driven by rasa.
Mm.
Machines will never have rasa. And so now the last thing that remains is, why is it that some people become serial entrepreneurs? Why is it some people just have boundless, endless creativity?
Mhm.
And the answer is this: some people mistakenly think that fixity is power. And when you look at
Okay.
those people with fixity projecting power, their faces are serious. Nothing moves.
Mhm.
The good example of that is a military person on duty. Do you see any motion or movement? No. He is standing, projecting power.
Mhm.
Uh, you need power. We live in a world where power is also a necessary ingredient. But remember, nothing has greater fixity than when you're dead. When you're dead, nothing moves.
Yeah.
So we associate life with fluidity. Fluidity. That's why our symbols have never been mountains, our symbols have been the river.
Mm.
You said, be Saraswati, flow like a river. You find a rock, it's about fixity. Find a way around the rock, that's about
Around
flow.
flexibility or
Flex,
adaptability.
adaptability. We are a flow. One of our proverbs says, we as a people are like eggplant. Why are we eggplant?
Yeah.
Because you can put eggplant in anything, mix it with anything.
Yeah.
So all these things are designed to help us understand the notion of fluidity. And one of the things for the first time that my novel does,
Mhm.
it reveals, this part I will hold off. I don't want to take away the punchline.
Yeah.
This part, in this great story, it reveals how can you very simply become a fluid person. Fluid so that you free up all of the blocks that you have, and that becomes makes you much more creative, much more innovative, whether it's in business, whether it's in science, whether it's in your profession, whether it's in your relationships, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Niti, this simple technology that I have brought to the world for the first time, uh, that will show you how to become fluid, will, to the person who becomes a Niti warrior, make them infinitely more successful than they could contemplate being without.
Yeah, that's a fascinating. I think that's a good metaphor for the not just individually, but for the community as well. Facing our community in general is facing uncharted waters
Yes.
and unimaginable darknesses now too.
Yes.
And it's kind of I think it's a good thing to keep in mind that how are we going to adapt to these new obstacles, new challenges, that's going to define us as a community or as an identity really going on is how we adapted or how I know there's a word going around everyone loves using resilience or grit that our community can really display, which will come at an individual level, but this is you can see it at every level, just in your, like you said, in your own life with our careers or education or relationships, but also I think on a community level, something we should be thinking about.
That's correct. That's correct. That's why I think that the story of Dawn is something very different. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about our culture
Yeah.
that people regurgitate. I
Mhm.
personally feel a responsibility that when I humbly submit something and proffer it to the world, my community being first on the list,
Mhm.
that I bring something that's original. And I think by bringing to the world Niti, and most importantly, this beautiful girl, Dawn, that you will absolutely fall in
Yeah.
love with, and by the time you finish, she will change you. Um, I feel that I have maintained that standard, but my hope would be that once people start reading the book, and the early reviews, people who have read it and
Yeah.
absorbing it have really been very kind. But my hope would be that each one of us becomes a Niti warrior in the sense of unlocking one's own full potential
Mhm.
and faculties. And
Yeah.
that's the competitive edge our culture gave us. I mean, remember, and this is what I say that Kashmir Valley to the first millennium was what Silicon Valley is to the second millennium, uh,
Mhm.
an extraordinary incubator. And
Yeah.
the difference between the truths of Kashmir Valley versus the truths of Silicon Valley is that the truths of Silicon Valley become obsolete very quickly.
Mhm.
There's always
Mhm.
the next best thing. Whereas the truths of Kashmir Valley are eternal. And
Yeah.
I feel great bringing Niti technology, where in the novel, this literary genre, I actually explain what happens to the biochemistry of your body, your mind, your spirit, and your heart.
Mhm.
I give you all of those secrets so that you understand that when you read a Niti story, what exactly is it doing to you inside, and
Yeah.
why does it have this incredible, um, incredible impact and benefit on you. So yeah,
Yeah.
it feels good.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I think just learning about Niti more and just enjoying the book and on one level learning about Niti more will be something we all need to experience at some point. So
Yeah, she
I
is.
will. I don't have a. My other question was going to be why you think uh and I think you've basically answered this, but it was going to be why you think the youth should really be interested in this book. And I know from one, it sounds I like your answer about Niti, about just utilizing Niti for all of us, and then our connection to our culture too. So I think both of those make two very compelling reasons why we should be interested.
No, it's all about the competitive edge, right? I mean, people are constantly saying, uh, where do I get the competitive edge? Do I go do yoga? Do I go run a marathon race? Do I go and study at Stanford and try to get
Mhm.
admission there? So, we are engaged in a lot of rat races to try to be the alpha predator. And the beauty of what I've shared is that it simply says that to succeed in your quest, um, you really have to unlock the force multiplier in you. And that force multiplier the key to unlocking that, I've revealed it, I've shared it. And so I certainly practice those simple techniques. And I can tell you from my own life, they work. I am a walking testimony to Niti. And, the story of Dawn is a very enjoyable way to experience it. She's an extraordinary girl. She'll grow in front of you. She is got her band. These are the five outlaws. They call themselves outlaws because they're outside the law that this horrible tyrant had created.
Mm.
And so these five outlaws, uh, led by her, she's the leader. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, and so the story will, as you read it, it'll astonish you to every stage. For example, so one of the things about wonder is that it should startle you, and this novel will startle you in many different
Yeah.
ways. But one of the ways you'll get startled is that you'll go tell your friend, and after you read the novel, you'll say, "Did you know that the oldest recorded joke, recorded meaning in writing, in
Hmm.
human history was in Kashmir?" And I share that joke in the novel, and it's actually a pretty
Wow.
darn good joke. So one of the things you learn is that the sense of humor doesn't change if you go back 2,500
It's
years
prevailed
ago.
for so many years. Wow.
People still laughed at the same things, and so you'll see many such things in there, and it's going to be you'll like Dawn. You'll like Dawn.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to figuring out what that joke was too. I don't want you to give it away here, but
No, you should.
yeah, yeah. But I look forward to looking at that joke.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Well, I don't have that many questions, but thank you so much for sharing all your inspiration behind Dawn and Niti. Also, I think it'll be a good learning experience and an enjoyable one for all of us, especially as youth.
Thank you. And, we certainly plan to be at KOA camp in July 4th.
Mm.
And if some of you or many of you read this novel, you can download it on Kindle or buy a book. If you read it, then we can have a follow up session and I can take you
Yeah,
guys through a Niti training session also if
yeah.
it's interest. So we'll continue the conversation, but meanwhile, enjoy Dawn, the
Mm.
warrior princess of Kashmir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rakesh.
Thank
Okay. Namaskar.
you.